The fast-moving Minnesota Vikings talk show, Vikings Hot Takes. We've got me, Flip Mozzie. We've got Eric J. Thompson. It's the NFL Draft edition. 6 prospects, 20 minutes, and the fans with the takes in the comments too. So settle in, and we'll see you on the other side of the roll-in.
Let's go.
Let's go a Viking on Viking Hot Takes.
Hello, let's go. We're a week away from the NFL draft. It's time to get some new young uns in purple. Eric, how are you, sir?
Well, first of all, I got to say you're really well dressed today. I mean, I'm really liking
Oh,
the
look at
coordinator's outfit. It's like we didn't plan this, did
look
we?
at
No,
us.
no, of course not. But
No, I don't
yeah,
I don't know how this happened.
we got to look sharp because the team is going to be looking sharper in a week. There's a week from tonight, maybe from this very hour, even we are going to have a new Viking, and that is extremely exciting. And that's why we're switching up the
Yeah,
format a little bit this week. We're not doing our usual back and forth 3 questions. We're just taking it straight up draft prospects. And you want to explain a
right.
little bit of we can't cram every draft prospect in here. So do you want to explain the loose guidelines that we're following for the 6 that we're running down?
Yeah, you know, it is the NFL draft edition, but we still can only ask 6 questions. So for this episode, we just decided to ask each other 3 prospects each. I think my prospects are better than Eric's, but the fans will decide that at the end of the day, and we'll see which one of these guys actually ends up as a Viking next weekend.
Yeah,
So
you know it won't be any of the 6 that we actually discuss, but we'll try.
yeah, we'll do our best, but let's hop into it because we only got 20 minutes to go over all 6 prospects. So Dave will put us on the clock and we will hop right in. First question, Eric. Will the Vikings draft Trent McDuffie, the cornerback from Washington?
This one is interesting, and I'm glad that we kind of started here because, I mean, there's there's probably out of the three big cornerbacks in this, that are all in the first
Mhm.
round mix. This seems like maybe the most realistic one because he's probably going to be there at 12. And
Mhm.
Gardner and Stingley we did the SB Nation mock draft, and Sauce and Stingley were both gone in the SB Nation mock draft. Actually, Washington took Stingley right before, so McDuffie ended up being the pick at 12, and he's a really good corner. He's a 3-year starter at Washington. He's super quick and fluid. You hear the word hips all the time when you're reading anything about him. That means he can change direction really well. I like that he can play both zone and man without knowing a ton of the details yet of what the Vikings defense is going to look like. I think he's pretty versatile in that respect. And
Mhm.
the classic cliches, like he's sticky and he stays in the hip pocket and all that fun stuff. And he's even shown some nice flashes of being able to disrupt plays with some quick blitzes in Washington. And I think that's a welcome tool for a corner. But if the Vikings do get him, I'm okay with it, but I hope it's a little later in the first round. 12 still
Okay.
feels a little bit early for me for McDuffie. And most mocks and big boards have him somewhere in the middle or the second half of the first round. So like then the 16 to 18, the 20 kind of range. That seems to make more sense to me. And if you can do something like the Vikings did with Darisaw last year, and get a guy that ends up being a starter, and while getting some extra draft ammunition, I think that's a pretty solid situation. You could do a lot worse than McDuffie. That he's not the perfect cornerback. Like Sauce it's hard to pick apart any part of his game because he's so dang good. There's legit concerns about McDuffie's size. Most of
Yeah.
his key measurables, like the height and the wingspan and everything, are a little less than his peers. It's about an inch or two less than Stingley, and about 3 or 4 inches less in height and wingspan, I think, than Gardner. But there's the whole thing that he only had 2 interceptions in college. I don't put too much stock into that, but I'm not saying like that he's like Trey Waynes at all, because they're very different kinds of
Wow.
athleticism. I'm not saying that they're the same kind of player, because Trey Waynes is a straight up. But the one thing I would compare it a little bit is like they they have the ability to stay with the receiver and be right there to be able to make a play on the ball, but maybe not actually make a play on the ball. That's the one thing that kind
Right.
of stands
Right.
out to me with McDuffie's game. But I mean, I don't put too much stock in the he only had 2 interceptions thing, mostly because the Pac-12 quarterbacks just basically stopped throwing at his direction last year, so he didn't really get a ton of opportunities to do so. But so he doesn't come out without any question marks, but I think he'd still be a very solid pick, and especially if they can move back, maybe pick up an extra second or third or something like that from another team. I think that would be a really good addition to this team.
Yeah, I think that's fair. You talk about the trade back. Maybe some fans are looking at McDuffie as, you can't always trade back, and he could be just the easy pick at 12. I will say, PFF has him ranked as 11th on their big
Okay.
board. Dane Bruler at the Athletic has him ranked as 12. So a lot of people see McDuffie. They think he has a high floor. He has that athleticism and intuition, like you talked about, but maybe some of the flash isn't there, like you said, with the ball skills. So, we'll see if they trade back and if he's still on the board. But I think McDuffie has some pedigree. That's the one thing I want to talk about. Trent McDuffie is he turned down a lot of these offers from big schools, from the Alabamas, from the LSUs, because he wanted to go to Washington. Washington has a track record now of being a CBU and developing multiple NFL corners. We're talking Kevin King, Sidney Jones, Marcus Peters, Desmond
Sure.
Trufant. So he is the next line in line of those guys. And let's keep him in purple. Let's go to the next one.
I like it. Okay. So I stayed in the same vein because I think damn near every mock draft has some sort of defensive back usually going. So I went with one. We already discussed him a little bit. We discussed him a little bit last week. Will the Vikings draft Derek Stingley Jr., the cornerback from LSU, especially if he's there at 12?
Yeah. Yeah, this will get controversial between McDuffie and Stingley Jr. And these guys will be compared to each other for
Oh
years
yeah.
down the line because nobody's really sure of who the better corner is, especially when you incorporate Stingley's foot injury. Now, Stingley, like I said last week, he is the flash. He is the story. He knows Justin Jefferson. He knows Patrick Peterson. He knows the defensive back coach. He's the guy with the ball skills and the big plays. He's the guy who won that national championship. So it looks like he has a higher ceiling, but there's also more risk involved with Stingley. Personally, I already told you, I don't think Stingley's there at 12. And so
Yeah.
that, for me, says go with McDuffie. But that's where I'm at with Stingley.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's all completely fair. And I mentioned it last week in our show. The he may have
God, he's
literally
coming at
jumped
me.
himself into the top 10. Stingley might have literally jumped because that what is it, the 10-8 broad jump that it looked like he was barely trying. Like, that's the athleticism is there, and that was the big concern with him being injured for, that's the if he had put the 2019 tape this last season, his true
Right.
freshman year,
1 year,
national
1 year
champion.
wonder.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
exactly. Like, he did everything. He was the top ranked corner coming into like he was I think it was the third overall prospect, definitely the top corner coming out of high school. So this guy was well known coming out of high school and had the freshman year that he did. Like, if you had switched it around where he was kind of banged up the first 2 years and then put that season in 2021 instead of 2019, he'd be a top 3 pick. He'd be long gone. It'd be just him and Gardner, maybe both going top 5. But like,
Yes.
the upside is it's a lot more than McDuffie's. That's why, like,
Yeah.
if he clears the medical stuff with your new medical staff and he's there and McDuffie's there, I don't think I think you go with Stingley just because he's athletic, he's got great ball skills, he seems to know where to be on the field at all times, and like, again, like, I think it's worth the risk. Like, if it was a
Yeah.
thing like an Achilles, or if it was something that could, feet isn't the, feet and back and necks and things like that, that it always has a chance of recurring. But I think it's definitely worth the risk, especially at 12. If Stingley's there, and of course if Gardner's gone, which we're both assuming, that's why we're not really bringing him up as one of the 6. You run up to the podium and take him, and it's a great combination of value and need there.
Definitely. Let's get to the next prospect. So, Eric, will the Vikings draft Jalen Pitre, the safety from Baylor?
Well, okay, I'm not gonna lie. I am a Cliff Notes draft connoisseur. Like, I
Wow.
know the basics. I know like, I'm not gonna dig in and grind tape on everyone. So I had to do a little bit of research on Petrie. First, how
I'm
to pronounce his name.
educating you.
Yes,
I'm
exactly.
educating you.
But I did do a little research today and a little bit last night, and like, I went in and I researched how to pronounce his name in case I had to say it first. But that was an easy one. It's like Land Before Time. It's the character Petrie. So that's an easy one to remember. But as far as his game goes, the more research I did on him, the more I realized why you brought him up. Like, he'd be a
Yeah.
really intriguing, I don't think day 1 pick, but like a day 2 pick. Most people have him around the 50s in the big board. But if you can get him day 2, that'd be really. The dude played all over the formation in Baylor. Like, he made plays from all sorts of different places, and that's why he was a Jim Thorpe Award finalist. And like I talked about McDuffie blitzing at the top of the show, but like, Petrie blitzed a lot and blew up a lot of plays in the backfield for him. But like McDuffie, his size isn't maybe ideal. Like, he's also 5'11". He's a little wiry. He's kind of, like, it might be tough to be as versatile as he was at Baylor at the next level. The ideal thing that I see with Petrie is like when the Vikings had Ron Curse on the team. It's, like,
Yeah.
they wanted him to flourish in that in between kind of joker role, like the
Big
sometimes safety, sometimes
nickel.
slot corner. Yeah, the big nickel.
Yeah.
I think Petrie could definitely do that. Like, there's a chance that, like, he could be really versatile. He could hop in with Bynum and Smith. He can hop in as a slot corner. He could do a lot of things for this defense. Again, like, the size makes the one thing that I'm a little worried about with him is that he could be the dreaded tweener, like, where he's not ideal size for either position. Like, if he's going to get run over in the run game, and he's not quite
Yeah.
big enough to handle the outside. But like, as long as he can make an impact in one of those areas, it's really intriguing, because I thought he was. Again, it's the Big 12 that, they're putting up yards and points left and right in that conference no matter what. But to see him, what they did, and against some really good competition in the Big 12, like, his his highlight tape really speaks for itself. Like he's got a lot of good plays on film, and I really like that. That's another reason why I like McDuffie. He has the 3 full years of tape you can watch and like being good at what he does. Petry's the same way. He has a lot of playing time, a lot of experience, and it would be a really intriguing day 2 pick. Another, especially if they go elsewhere with the first round pick. I'd like to see him on the list on day 2. So how did you
Yeah.
land on Pitre for bringing them up on one of the 6 that we talked about today?
Oh, well, just it's time to kind of think about Harrison Smith replacement, but Petrie goes past that because his highlights, I encourage you to go watch his highlights. They are more fun to watch than Stingley and McDuffie.
They
He's a
are. They're fun.
box safety. He's a big nickel. He can blitz. He can play slot. These are some stats. He logged 153 snaps at defensive line last year. We're talking 31 tackles for loss in 23 games, on top of 13 pass breakups, 4 interceptions, and 4 forced fumbles. So this is a guy who has a nose for the ball. He's always going to be around it. And I mean, I think this is where the game is going, is just pure athletes with hunger and attitude and toughness like Jalen Pitre. That's why I put him in here. I hope they get him.
I like it. He's like the old NCAA
Yeah.
football, the ATH designation. You can just see what his highest rating is depending on where you line him up. I like how versatile he could be.
Yeah. Let's
Okay.
go next.
All right, we're actually going to go on the offensive side of the ball just because I wanted to. So there's a lot of different ways you can go here, but if the Vikings go receiver at 12, I picked Jameson Williams. Do you think there's a chance that the Vikings actually pick him?
It is fun to go offense. I love the idea of receiver. I love the idea of trading down for a receiver. Eric, you have this thing with prospects who are coming off injuries and only have 1 year of high level production. Like,
Buy low,
I
buy
just
low.
don't get it.
I like potential. That's the
This
only reason.
guy
The
is
only reason I'd give.
watching
Yeah.
from this guy is watching from the bench for 2 years at Ohio State before he transfers to Alabama, and then he tears his ACL in the national championship game. I just can't see that much us taking that much risk at 12. On top of that, I agree he's an elite deep threat, but the Vikings' philosophy right now, number one, Kevin O'Connell is supposed to be scheming our wide receivers open, and number two, Kirk is the most agnostic quarterback when it comes to his receivers. He's just going to throw it to the guy who's open. So no, I'm not for taking a deep threat receiver at 12 when you can get a guy that will be equally useful as a wide receiver 3 in the second or third round.
Fair, but I just wanted to introduce William more as like an idea than a specific player here, because like in the first round, if the first round guy, like if you like one of the Ohio State guys like Olave or Wilson, or if you like Treylon Burks more, or if Drake London's your guy, that's fine. I just like the potential of Jameson Williams, and yes, he tore his ACL this year at the very beginning of this year, like in the national championship game. But he says he's on pace to be back for week 1. That's one thing, but just the idea of having the wide receiver is really fun to me. No matter where you want to go, if you will get another first round wide receiver, Williams, I just love because he can take the top off the defense. But you made a really good point about the Cousins thing. It's like, how many times have we seen someone wide open deep where it's like, well, this guy's open at 10 yards down too. So that's a different discussion for a different day. But like like Thielen's not getting any younger. He's 32, and that Jefferson Brinks truck extension is going to be coming up sooner rather than later. So like having like you mentioned, contingency plan for Harrison Smith, it'd be nice to have one for wide receiver, and especially how loaded this wide receiver class is. All right, we've got 6 minutes left to go through 3 more guys, or 2 more guys.
All right, 2 more guys. Eric, will the Vikings draft Perrion Winfrey, defensive lineman from Oklahoma?
This one was another fun one that the more research I did, then it's like, okay, I get what Flip's getting at. Like this is
I picked some fun guys.
Yeah, this was they weren't the ones that everyone's talking about, because that's again, the depth and breadth of my draft knowledge could fill a kiddie pool, I think. But again, I went in, did some research, and the dude's a unit. Like he's 6'4" and 290, and it is a thick muscular 290. Like, he is a big
Yeah.
dude, and he's really fun to watch on tape too. Like, he is always playing hard, and it seems like the kind of guy that he has like the infectious intensity. Like, he is always
Hmm.
like in between plays hyping up his teammates, and he like I he didn't put up a ton of stats at Oklahoma. I think it was like 5.5 or sacks or something like that, and handful
Hmm.
of tackles for
Hmm.
loss. But from what I can gather about both him and the clips I can watch, and just what Oklahoma in general, Oklahoma kind of had that old Zimmer philosophy of especially their inside guys on the defensive line. They're not ever going to fill up the stat sheet. They're to fill their assignments so everyone else can make plays behind them. But like, I think Winfrey, it is another one. Like, I think his arsenal of pass rush moves could be, improved. I think he's a little
Right.
raw on that, and like, but he's hovering around the 50s, just like Pitre on most big boards. That'd be a really interesting one to go. I think he'd make a really nice day 2 pick, just for his explosiveness and intensity. Like, you can teach the technique. You can't always teach like the motor, and like, either you have that or you don't. And Winfrey absolutely seems to have that, so that's why he's intriguing to me. And I'm guessing that's kind of why you
Yeah.
picked him as well.
Oh, 100% diamond in the rough. You watch him, it's pure athleticism. Sometimes he doesn't even know where he's going. That sounds to me like something we heard about, I don't know, another LSU pass rusher, maybe Mr. Z Smith. Maybe we heard those same things. They were both day 2 picks. I think
Hmm.
Zadarius Smith was even in the 4th round. So he's a developmental pass rusher, somebody you can work into the rotation, and he just needs more discipline. He's got Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith to give him that discipline and teach him how to be an NFL pass rusher. So when you
Right.
talk about the idea of drafting a wide receiver, I just love the idea of drafting a developmental edge or defensive lineman in 2022.
Right, and he's still like, he's not so raw where he can't get plugged in and actually
Yeah.
play. Like, but he's going to get better. That's so.
Yeah.
I feel a little bad here because you obviously stretched out a little bit to find a couple guys that are a little more off the beaten path and be available without all the glitz and glamour of the Thursday. I went with another huge name. I think he's the third most common name on the Daily Norseman mock draft database.
Yeah.
But he's another really, really, really fun one to talk about. Jordan Davis, interior D line from Georgia. What do you think about the prospects of the Vikings drafting him?
I just want to say right now that we are keeping score, and when we get back after the draft, whoever has the most picks actually in purple is going to win. We are probably
Wow,
going to tie. It's probably going to be 0, but I've given myself a bigger opportunity here.
you definitely did. You
Jo-
you have the chance at 2. I have the at very, very most 1. None of these guys are going to be around after Thursday, so that's true.
yeah.
Yeah.
Jordan Davis, 6'3", 341 pounds.
Whew.
He's pedigree. He's,
Yep.
Georgia national championship player. PFF ranks him at 20. Bruler ranks him at 24. Eric, this is a reach. This is a reach
Well,
at pick 12.
yes, I'm with you on that. This would be another one of those in the McDuffie thing, where if we can trade back a little bit for
Yeah,
him, and
yeah,
and I'll let you explain in
yeah,
that. I'll compound on why 12 would be probably a little early
yeah.
for him. But you go ahead and
Right.
finish your
But
assessment before I do.
he is fun to watch. My concerns, he is run defense. So it's literally, you get the opportunity to put a rock in the middle of your defense on rundowns. He's only run defense. So does he have any translatability into pass rush? Maybe not. And you just can't draft a run defender only in the first round of the NFL draft, in my opinion. But I mean, he is a big boy. He does make plays when he's on the field. It's just he's not on the field that often. So I'll let you take the last minute, Eric, to
Okay.
defend
Yep. And
this
that's
pick.
exactly it. That's the obvious thing there that the detractors can point to. Right now, he's kind of a 2 down tackle. Like, until he develops as a
Yeah.
reliable pass rusher. But the dude played fullback. He played extra lineman in the goal line stuff. Like, he can do all sorts of stuff, and he just straight up dominates people. It looks like a comic book villain sometimes when he pushes people
Yeah.
around. I think you can teach that kind of stuff in him. Like, with his size and strength and frame, he has so much potential. Yes, it would take a while, I think, to get him up to speed to be a 3 down linemen. So that's probably why maybe late in the first round you do that instead of 12. I agree that 12 is early. I just wanted to bring him up because he's so fun to talk about. That Georgia defense, they're going to have like half of their defense drafted in the first night. So like they were really fun to watch. He could be like Akeem Hicks
Like
2.0 with like with flashes of the Aaron Donald. Oh my God, did he just do that to 3 blockers at once kind of things? Like I'm not comparing him to Arnold yet, but no, like he has the potential, and it'd be a lot of fun. But yeah, Vita Vea was taken round 12. Yeah, that's right. That's a good point, Dan Hannum. And he turned out okay.
He turned out
developed.
okay.
He developed, right.
But that's it. That's 6 prospects in 20 minutes. It's the fastest, most fun draft prep you're going to get. I mean, you can't cover 6 more fun draft prospects, non-quarterback drafts. Maybe we should have talked about some quarterbacks, but we're trying to be realistic here.
Yeah,
we're trying to be realistic here.
Exactly. Yep.
Either way, hoping some of these guys end up in purple, and we will find out in just 7 days when we are doing the NFL draft live at Lake Monster Brewing in St. Paul, Minnesota. Check out the Climb the Pocket Twitter feed with all the details. We've got live hosts. Eric and I, unfortunately, will not be there, but that's why we've got these hoodies on, because we will be doing live giveaways, including 2 UNRL hoodies. So go to the draft show, watch the draft show, and you could have the chance to look just as good as Eric and I do on the podcast today. Can't wait to see how these prospects end up in purple. Eric, what do you want to close with, my man?
Let's get excited. 1 week away. And yes, if you can make it out, if you're in the area, go out to Lake Munster. There is all sorts of stuff throughout the weekend. We have the whole show scheduled up there. It's going to be a blast. Again, I am a 40-year-old dad of 2 that we're going to a cabin, yay, instead. But I'll be following along and wishing I was there with all of you. And Lake Munster has amazing beer. It's a great setup there. It's perfect to watch the draft. So if you can make it, I definitely recommend it.
Well said. Dave, we'll turn it over to you. Skol Vikes.
And we have coming up Saturday, we have Darren and myself as 2 old bloggers. We're going to be arguing, should we go offense or defense, going into Thursday and the draft. We'll find out. That's one of the topics that we'll be discussing. Also, besides those they're fabulous. I wanted one, UNRL hoodies. They've got 2 for the giveaway. They're sold out, folks. The only way you're going to get them is to go to Lake Monster Brewing. Also, part of the giveaway, there'll be a jersey giveaway and free beer. And who doesn't love free beer? I wish I was there for that. Yes, it's the best. But we're ramping up. We have the full 3 days of all broadcasts. Everybody's been scheduled. We have other guests that aren't on the schedule that we're plugging in. They will come in a little bit here, a little bit there. People that you know, people that write on the Vikings every day. So you will see some of those folks over our 3 days of broadcast. But that Friday night, they're at Lake Monster. You can't beat that with a stick. Come out and join us. Until then.
So much content coming out. Until then.
What do we say?
Skol Vikes.
Skol Vikings! Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell, and rate us on your favorite aggregator. And a special shout out goes to our partners, the Daily Norseman, where the best Vikings content can be found, and to Lake Monster Brewing, home of the best beer in Minnesota. Skol, everybody.